Hey everyone, welcome to r/Tales from Tech Support, where we get to have a little chuckle at the technologically disadvantaged. Like me. I'm Uncle Reddit, and have I got a story for you. Found the problem. It's the computer you send the log files from. I had this software that was needed for our job that would constantly have little problems here and there. We would get unexpected exception errors and things would close. Most of the time I could fix the error because I've been doing it for years. Every once in a while, though, there would be an error I can't fix, and I need to call the software support. Well, we had this one terrible error that was happening to everyone, and I could recreate it at will. So I told the software company, and they didn't believe me, so I sent them the log file. We started getting the error doing different things, so I kept opening tickets every time another variant of the issue happened. They would always ask for a log file. So instead of logging onto the computer that originally reported the issue, I would recreate the issue on my computer and then send the log file. Finally, after about the 15th ticket that I opened with the variant of this bug, I was told they had a solution. They said the problem is on the computer. All the issues they're seeing is coming from the same computer. Then they closed the ticket as fixed. I had to tell them that of course it came from the same computer because I was recreating the problem and sending the logs. So I opened each ticket again with a log from a different computer, just to make them happy. Yeah, I could see this from both sides. I could see where the software company would be a little confused about that. I'm not sure that I would have assumed that he was just recreating it just for the purpose of sending the ticket. What do you guys think? Extra spaces. I supported a school computer lab for several years, and this particular issue happened a lot. It was always a quick fix, but I still recall the sheepish realization that the first offender and I both shared early in my tenure. Help desk student came to my office to inform me of a user with a login issue. I reset the user's password and told HD to have the user try it again. A few minutes later they were back, stating that the new password didn't work. I confirmed that the new password did work at a machine in my office. Maybe the lab machine was off network? Nope, pinged fine. Lost its domain binding? Nope, still listed. Strange. I went to investigate. User was sitting there trying different passwords over and over. They verified their username again and everything looked right. User: I've tried every password I've ever used, plus the one you gave me. None of them work. I also tried it on that computer, but it's broken too. Me, turning to computer number 2. Let me try a different account. It worked. Checked networking and domain settings for good measure and we're all good. Checked the user's account with the temp password I set, and it worked too. User: What? How? My login still won't work over here though. Let me try the computer I sit at for class. I don't want to be locked out again later. I watched as they moved down a few seats, tapped the spacebar to wake the screen, then proceeded to attempt to log in. No luck. Then they slid down another seat. Tap, 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 tap on the spacebar to wake it up. Still no login. I checked the first machine again, and that's when I saw that in waking the machine, they'd managed to type a single space in the username field before their username. They felt pretty silly about it, and I felt like a dummy for missing such a simple error. HD now has a help doc that instructs users to completely clear both the username and password fields before trying again, and I've habitually only used Control-Shift or the mouse to wake computers since then. Yeah, I keep trying to tell my wife when she wakes her computer, don't use the spacebar. If you're going to use, just one single key, you make it a letter. That way, when you go to type in your information, you can see that you've typed a letter in. This is the job that never ends. Hello, everyone. Gather round, for I have a story to tell. A story of a job that was scheduled for 6 hours, but ended up taking much longer. Relevant characters. Me, a key. PD, super cool city police officer. PM, project manager. POC, point of contact, basically a walking, talking sitemap and a set of keys. Soup, my supervisor, retired Army with a low tolerance for incompetence and stupidity. As I've mentioned in my previous posts, I work for an IT infrastructure company. We install the cables that make the network function. For those familiar with the 7 layers model, our work is affectionately labeled Layer 0. Well, one of the other services we offer is service calls. For a contracted rate, a national management company requests 1 or 2 of our techs to be the on-site eyes, ears, and hands of techs several states away. For this service call, Soup and I were to go and exchange the customer's POS brand switches for Cisco ones, then stay on site while the customer engineer halfway across the country configured the new switches. The ticket said we were allotted 12 man-hours to complete this work. We arrived, checked in with the PM, and went inside to get to work. After waiting for 30 minutes, we called the POC to see what was up. Turns out she had a flat tire and was going to be 2 hours late. Okay, we can get paid to twiddle our thumbs for 2 hours. Finally, point of contact arrived and we got to work. Physically swapping the switches went smoothly, surprisingly. 11 switches spread across 3 racks in different suites in the building, about 5 hours. The issues started when the time came to configure. We powered up the first stack, connected the dual routers to the indicated ports, and waited. According to the customer engineer, the switches weren't stacking right, or if they did stack, they didn't configure right. Oh boy. What happened next was 3 hours of hard rebooting the switches. If the customer engineer changed anything between reboots, we never noticed. The engineer got on a Zoom call with one of his colleagues and finally sorted out the issues with the first stack, 4 switches, at 6 p.m. We had been on site for 11 hours at this point. During this process, Soup advised me to make a nice comfy pile of boxes and take a nap, as we'll be here for a while. The next stack, 3 switches, was also choosing to be a problem child, and 2 Cisco engineers were roped into the Zoom call, as well as another customer engineer. Some firmware conflict between the config and the switches was preventing any of the switches with fiber ports from grabbing the master role. At this point, someone on the call had a thought. Wait, what's the local time? How long have the techs been on site? Crickets. Soup, it's currently about 2100 hours local time, and we've been on site for 14 hours. Okay, let's troubleshoot the web GUI configuration later. For now, we need to get this done so the network is operational tomorrow. Has anyone started stacking Closet 3 yet? Soup, I can send my junior tech to Closet 3 to work on that one while we manually configure these switches. Sound good? Everyone agreed to this course of action, and I went down 1 floor and awaited a call from the customer engineer to power on the stack. Cardinal rule of service calls: you do not plug in or unplug anything, even power, without explicit instruction to do so. At around midnight, I get the call to power on the last stack. To everyone's amazement and relief, it stacks and configured correctly by itself, so I just need to patch in all the existing ports myself. As I finish with that, I get a text from Soup. The 3 stack is working. He'll meet me in the main closet to collect our tools and leave. Yay! I close the closet and open the door to leave the suite. Beep, 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 beep. Yep, the alarm auto-armed at midnight, and both POC and building security have gone home for the night. Lacking a code and not wanting to smash the keypad, I leave it and meet up with Soup. He agrees that there's nothing we can do about the alarm, so we should just pack up and leave. We walk out of the building at 2:30 in the morning, looking forward to 4 hours of sleep before we have to come back and get some final paperwork. Just then, a black van with blue flashers pulls up to us. PD, we received an automated call from this address. Is everything alright? Quietest groan ever. Me. Yeah, that was me. We got locked in and I tripped the alarm as I left. PD. Okay, can I see your license so I can record that I made contact on my paperwork? Me silently pulls out wallet and fishes out my DL. 60 seconds of waiting for PD to radio my DL number to dispatch. PD. Here you go, sir. Thank you and have a good night. Fast forward to 7 a.m. We come back and once again, POC is late. Soup calls the PM with an update. Soup. Yeah, we're back on site to get our completion signature and box up the old switches, but POC is late again. PM. What are you still doing there? We'll fax them for signatures, and the local IT had better be capable of putting 11 switches in 11 boxes and slapping a shipping label on them. Go home, get some sleep, and I want an email explaining your story on how a 12 man-hour job ended up costing us 39 man-hours. Bye. I don't know the full fallout of that day, but this exact operation was put on indefinite hold in all of the customers' locations while a post-mortem was done on our job. That hold is still in place at the time of writing, almost 3 weeks later. Well, I don't know the ins and outs of everything that was going on there, like why things weren't stacking and configuring properly, but I can tell you this. The point of contact was a total screw-up. Showing up late, leaving people on site that had no business being there by themselves in the middle of the night, it's just nuts. It sounds like they didn't get any real cooperation at all. Headphones don't work. So I'm one of 2 people at my MSP that works on Macs. One day, this customer comes in with a 12-year-old Mac laptop that has a laundry list of problems. Screen's messed up, keyboard doesn't work right, touchpad is intermittent, not booting, etc. Naturally, the first thing I tell her is that it would be more cost-effective to just buy a new one. She has sentimental value in this machine, so she wants us to do it anyway. In talking to her, she mentions that another company has worked on it. one that almost everyone knows, but I won't name here. The main point is, almost everything that comes in after they worked on it is worse off than before. I open it up and begin to diagnose it. Keep in mind, one of her chief complaints is that prior to it dying, the headphone jack didn't work and it felt loose. On initial inspection, I find a swollen battery that has vented a bit into the touchpad, keyboard, and logic board. I'm just getting ready to order parts when something catches my eye and I remember her headphone issue. There were plenty of signs that whoever was in this machine before me had no clue what they were doing, or just didn't care. Battery was damaged by what looked like a screwdriver. Screws were missing and or stripped, etc. Well, in this particular model, the headphone jack is a tiny separate piece that plugs into the logic board. Where this part was supposed to be, there was just a hole. I know exactly what happened, too. This tiny piece looks like it should just slide in after you get the logic board back in, which is about an hour task by itself. Well, it doesn't. There's about exactly 1 millimeter of logic board which prevents you from doing just that. Whoever worked on it previously must have gotten the board back in, realized the headphone jack wouldn't fit, and just gave up and put the machine all the way back together. When I told the customer, she was furious at first, then proceeded to laugh for about 5 minutes. Moral of the story, if they put a purple label on it, don't take your computer to them. Some people will get this. Too long didn't read. The client's computer didn't have audio out and the headphone jack felt loose, the reason being that the previous tech didn't put it back in. I can understand frustration when you get to a point in a job where you realize you're going to have to do some backtracking in order to get something done, but to just say screw it and leave it, yeah, that's bad form. Unsolvable trouble ticket. This happened back around 2000. I was working as a swing shift server admin for a large bank. Our location was one of 3 data centers. Most nights were nut to butt. This night was slow. So I took the opportunity to look for something to do. I decided to check out the day shift desktop ticket queue. There was a ticket open for over a year. This user's monitor image would randomly shake. The team couldn't duplicate it. They replaced the monitor several times. Challenge accepted. There are almost no employees there at night, so I went for a walk. Found the user's cube and the monitor looked fine. She had a very large CRT. This wasn't normal. Most had LCDs at this point. I took a look at her coworkers and almost immediately, the user on the other side of the cube wall, who had an LCD monitor, had an electric desk fan sitting 6 inches from the back of the large CRT with only cloth cube wall between them. I turned the fan on and the monitor wigged out. I left the owner of the fan a note asking her to relocate it. I closed the ticket. The following day I was told that the day techs were given a hard time all day over how simple solving the unsolvable trouble ticket was. Yeah, I'm not sure I could blame the day techs for that. I'm not sure I would have thought of that either. Sometimes it just takes a fresh pair of eyes, you know. The guy went in and all was quiet and he had a chance to kind of look around and see what was going on. You guys think you would have caught that? Zombie hard drive. So I work for this little MSP and we deal with a lot of older people coming in with little problems on a daily basis. One day I have this older gentleman come in stating that his 7-year-old laptop is having issues booting. I start to get him checked in and start asking more questions to narrow down the problem. He eventually says, well, it said something about something not being found and then turned off. Being rather familiar with issues like this, I forewarn him that it is most likely a failing hard drive and we'll have to install a new one and try to recover what we can. He immediately gets defensive saying, well, I don't think it's the hard drive. The last tech told me that and did something and it worked fine until now. He goes on to tell me that this has happened at 4 other tech shops. I assure him that we'll look at all possible issues and let him know. Out of curiosity, I call one of the shops and ask about this client. They laugh and say he refused to buy a new drive, so they just installed Windows on the partially dead drive and went on with their lives. Now, with this information, I was determined to get something visual to show him his drive was bad. So I pull it out and put it in a toaster and run a surface test. Keep in mind, some of the worst drives I've seen have only shown a couple of red or bad blocks in this test. Well, I run it and walk away, only to come back to half of the screen being red. I have no clue how this drive was still spinning and booting Windows 10. Armed with that, he finally bought a new drive. Needless to say, nothing was recoverable. I guarantee you this old guy was just like my grandfather. Somebody told him he needed brake pads or brake shoes. First thing in his mind is, oh, they're trying to rip me off. I can get another 500 or 600 miles out of those brake pads. Yeah, no, just no. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. If you've enjoyed this content, would you do me a favor? Would you consider giving this video a like, subscribe to the channel, maybe click that little bell icon so you don't miss the fat guy with the beard telling you stories. Oh yeah, and if you feel like it, share this. Share it around the web, share it on Facebook, share it with your friends. But anything you do is really greatly appreciated, and I'm just glad you're here to listen to me ramble. See ya.